Hello everyone and welcome to yet another draft. This time in the Dragon's Maze with the Gatecrasher and Ravnica format. Um, After doing two seal decks, one on my own and one with Frank, that you saw in the last couple of weeks, I decided that it would be time for a draft, of course. Draft in this format is particularly difficult. You have to take a lot of things into account. The most important is which color combination you're going to get in. And you have to keep it in mind during the draft and during which cards you pick, and it really changes the way all your picks are going to behave. Opening up this booster, we see I've already almost run out of time. We're going to take the Ravnica here. It's the best card. Also cards that are worth noting, there are a lot of cheap creatures in here that are really good, like Tit Drinker and Woodlot Crawler. I also like Battering Cresses and Feral Animist. Probably I like the Animist probably more than it should. And the Crawl Warrior is not to be underestimated. There's also the very fine house, the Snare Squad, and the Semi-Guild Gate. Meaning there's a lot of early game going on, but not a lot of red cards or Izzet cards are interesting, which means that our Ravnica will probably be a fine pick. Looking at this booster, we are getting a couple of very good cards. The first of is Give and Take. Give and Take is really good. If you use only the give part for 3% of encounters, that's a huge upside, especially if your opponent stepped out, you can get a swing in with it. It gets its value back immediately, and it makes the creature hard to move as well. Take is basically a sort of kicker form of give and take, in which you can just choose to roll up all the counters again and draw 3 cards instead, or maybe 4 if you're lucky. I don't use take all that much, but give makes this card very powerful, and the take is just an added extra. Also here is Skylasher, which is a creature which shouldn't be underestimated. The protection from blue is very relevant in this format. Flash, Reach, very relevant abilities, and the 2/2 is never wrong. There's also Robobuild Maka, very solid creature, and Semi-Guild Gate. For this boost I'm going to get the Maka as the only red card, solidifying our Ravnica pick. If there wasn't a Maka in there, I would have chosen Semi-Guild Gate. This is the third Semi-Guild Gate we're already seeing. Meaning that we're passing to. That's not as much a signal as you would expect it to be, but I really do like the Semi-Guild Gate to keep open and splash. Now we can either choose to go Gruul and splash blue, or we can choose to splash green later on if we find something that's worth our while. Considering that this booster is otherwise pretty empty, there's a very fine Snare Squad, which I don't really want to pair in with my 2 red cards right now. There are some playables like Crawl Warrior, Mob the Ops, that is pretty okay. This is a nice trick, but sadly 2 colors that are not ours yet. And the rest of them is basically filler. I mean, this card is good, okay, this card is okay, this card is okay. I can see a use for open late gatekeepers, but it's getting pretty narrow right now. So I'd rather just take out the gate. If we do end up with some gatekeepers, we have a gate to make use of it. And if we do end up with green cards, we have green cards to make use of it. Okay, so this booster is giving us yet another gate. Once again focusing on the blue, giving us black as potential splash color. The rare here is Breaking and Entering. I'm a bit divided on this card. I think the entering part is really good. I think that just stealing a creature from any graveyard cannot be countered by Cremate or anything like that, because you don't choose until entering resolves. It's powerful, yeah, it really is. Breaking, on the other hand, is really narrow. And milling 8 cards is not good enough on its own. Getting a mill deck is probably, well, it's doable now. It's more doable than it was in Gatecrash, but it's still not very good. And 8 mana is basically too much for what this card does. You're never going to reach that. I'm going to leave it in. I am going to take Flux Charger. I like Flux Charger a lot. It's a really big wall. It's a flying creature that can chip away, and every once in a while it will deal a huge amount of damage to an opponent. Okay, so there's another gate coming in, this time the Reckless Guild Gate. No one has picked any gates yet at this point, as far as we know, which is a good thing. I like people passing the gates. The gates are really good, they should be picked high, which is why I took a third pick Semi-Guild Gate. We could take the Reckless Guild Gate, set us up for blue. There is another candidate in this booster, which is Windrake. I'm not a fan of Windrake. Let's make this clear. There are a lot of cards in this format which are potentially Windrake, and there are a lot of cards in this format which can host Windrake. That said, it's still a 2/2 creature with flying, and that's usually solid enough. It's not good, it's not bad. I'm not really a fan, a lot of people are. I also really like Deputy of Acquittals, but it's too wide for me at this moment, so it would be between the Gate and the Windrake. And seeing how I rather like gates and rather dislike windrakes, I'm going to take this. Here we have yet another gate, 2 colors that we are not going to use, so I'm not going to take it right now. There's also Sunspire Gatekeepers, and this is one of the reasons why you would want to have gates. This card is really good. If you can land it with a knight, it's a huge power swing for you. Definitely worth your while. We could take it, but we don't have much space or deck around yet. We do have 2 gates, so chances are we're going to play it, but these 2 gates provide us 4 different colors. Neither of them are, well, none of them are white. We could take the gate, solidify that, or maybe take Murmuring Phantasm, get up some early game to wait for Rel's Eric or Flux Charger to take over. There's also Is It Glowstone to filter at the mana base, perhaps Gruul Glowstone if you do really want green in here. Haven't seen much pull for green yet. So I'm going to take the Murmuring Phantasm and hope that it can stall us out until we hit the powerful Rel's Eric or the only slightly less powerful Flux Charger. This booster doesn't hold a whole lot of cards that we find for our deck. There's Crawl Warrior, which is still a very good bear. There's Armored Wolf Rider, which is a very good 5-up, well, as far as bland 5-ups go. There's also Phyto Burst, which is basically unplayable. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like this card. I see it going last pick, and it deserves to be last pick. It's not good. There are instances where you would like to use it if you have multiple Feral Enemies or Fencing Ace or whatever. Usually you can let it table around a long time before picking it. I'm going to take the Open Lake Gatekeepers here. You already set us up with 2 gates to make use of its ability, and if you can, it's a really okay card. Here's another Open Lake Gatekeeper. I would like 4 gates before the Gatekeepers start to do something. With 4 gates they're unreliable, but they hit it off often enough to be worth your while. 3 gates is probably not good enough, 5 gates is optimal. Seeing how many gates there went around, I think there's a good chance we're getting one this booster still. Even if we don't, we can always start picking up in the next booster. Otherwise it's just a 2-4 wall, and basically if we have an endgame based on Flux Charge or Rel's Eric, creatures like that, I don't mind having cards like this in the deck. Okay, here we have the Woodlot Crawler, which, just like the Sky Lasher, the protection from green is really good. There are a lot of green cards in this format, most of them are very thick creatures, and the Woodlot Crawler can stop them all just at the blink of an eye. This card is worth your while. It really is. I'm hoping that the Demon Guild Gate is coming by, so I'm going to take my chance on the Crawler. The alternative here is taking a Cluestone. I don't like the Cluestones, I think Key Runes are better. I explained that already in a previous video. And there's also the fact that Cluestones really do come late. There are 2 Cluestones again, but we could opt for another Murmuring Phantasm, maybe Pilfered Plants if you really want to go black, but just the Crawler or the Gate are not enough to pull me into black right now, especially not for a card like Pilfered Plants. And I'm going to take the Phantasm again. It's really cheap, it holds back a lot of cards. A lot of early game, and it gives us just time. Here we have, well, there's still a Mythic in here. Reap Intellect. This card does nothing. Let it go. And the other cards all pretty much do nothing on their own as well. I'm going to take the Pilfered Plants. It's basically the only still playable card in my opinion in this booster. Leaf Decree might be playable if you're aiming for going for a really aggressive deck with main color white, but still then there's a one-shot effect that will basically do the same as 2 charged creatures can block, and I don't know if that's worth it. It's pretty much the same as all for the guilds. I'm going to take the Demon Clues down here. We might want to splash red instead of black, or perhaps well, yeah, just splash red instead of black. It's doable. These cards are not really committing us to red. This is Bluestone. The Goblin Test Pilot, which I think is not playable as well. If it had power, it might have been playable even as a 1/2 flying creature with a random ability. It still would have been borderline, but at least okay. As it is right now without power, it's pretty much useless. Okay, so we have the next booster here. Looking at the cards we have a very defensive deck setup, hoping to really close with something big in the late game. We have a lot of blue. We have a little bit of red that could be late game. We have a little bit of black that could be early game. So it leaves us open for multiple ideas. The idea is to think about the guilds we're having. Right now we're setting up a Grixis kind of deck, and we need to know if we play Grixis we have the Rakdos and the Izzet Guild in return to Ravnica, and we only have the Dimir Guild right now. So we are only going to get the Dimir cards, and that's fine. It means we can focus on getting some of the good Dimir cards and then see if we can get the fixing for the deck in the last guild, because it offers us, in the last booster, because it offers us 2 guilds to get our fixing from. Right now we have a lot of cards, so there's another wall that we might want. There's also Hands of Binding, which is great, but we're not aggressive enough. So I'm just going to take the finisher, and I haven't explained that one, but I'm going to do so right now. This deck is leaning heavily on having something to finish the game with. If we're going to stall with Marine Phantasm, it's only going to take so long before we're going to die. So we need to have something that we can finish to close the game off, and Flux Charger is one of those cards. Rift Skull Predator is another one of those cards. It's just a huge creature. The evasion makes it a little bit harder to block and almost a guaranteed 2-for-1. I really don't mind having this card in my deck as my end game. It'll give us some card advantage at the very least, and maybe it can just close the deal for us. Picking the Predator does mean that we're being pushed more into being Izzet with a splash into black. I don't want to do a 3-color even, especially not since we don't have maximum fixing right now. These cards don't really count as fixing because we can't play early game Dimir cards out of Dimir 2-stone. I'd make an exception for the Crawler because it's just as good on turn 5 as on turn 2 because it blocks green creatures all the time. Also Forest Walk should not be underestimated. So here I'm going to take the Mugging. Since red and blue seem to be the main colors, Mugging is still a decent removal card. Most of the other cards in the booster are secondary at best. Here's another gate. We should be on the lookout for gates, as I said. This gate also brings up the opportunity for us to look at green again. The only black cards we have are the Crawler and the Pilfered Plants. That's not much. However, with green, we can start picking up the Gruul cards from this booster as with the Simic cards, and it only leaves us with Izzet in Return to Ravnica. That's no big deal, it's just a little bit of switch around, and we should be a little bit more confident about getting our fixing done this booster instead of next booster. The gate also has some extra appeal because we do have to open late gatekeepers, which I really want to turn on. And this booster basically has nothing else. It's a choice between a gate, which might help our deck very much. Even if we're going to play it as a common play type mountain, it will still help the gatekeepers. While otherwise we would pick Armored Transport, which is basically an aggressive dork in our very defensive deck. So I'm going to take the gate, and I want to see if I can get one more gate if that's possible. This booster holds a couple of cards that are really good right now. We can get either a 2-drop in Deathcult Rogue or Warmind Infantry, or we can get Arrows of Justice as a removal spell. As far as removal spells go, Arrows of Justice is pretty solid. As far as creatures go, Deathcult Rogue and Warmind Infantry are also pretty solid. I prefer the Rogue over the Infantry because it's unblockable and provides its own form of endgame. The Warmind Infantry really needs a lot of other attackers to work, which means it will only come online in the very late game once the gatekeepers can start attacking and lots of creatures with big asses can go in. So I prefer the Rogue over the Infantry, but I do prefer the Arrows over the Rogue. We are removal light right now. I wouldn't mind playing a removal spell that can take care of an early game attacker, especially if there's flying or is Deathcult Rogue, because our walls can't stop that. Just going to take this. Okay, then here we have a booster that's offering us Dinrova Horror, which is another one of those late game cards which simply is going to do a lot for a deck. It returns a creature changing the board immediately, and with a little bit of luck it gets rid of the same creature. Basically that's usually there's a card in hand that's less valuable as the creature bouncing like a land. There's also another Warmind Infantry, and there is a Dimir Guildgate. As I explained, Warmind Infantry as an aggressive creature, it might be fine as a 2-3 blocker, but I don't think we would need that right now with Marine Phantasms and the Gatekeepers. And we could use another Dimir Guildgate. If we're going to go black, we can use the black, and otherwise we can still use the gate. So I'm just going to load up on this. And this booster gives us Killing Glare, which might be a definite pull into black, or Eaterize, which is so much better than it was. In Triple Gate Crash, people saw this card coming, playing around it, and with all the aggressive strategies, it made for a very effective card. Now that people don't see it coming anymore, they're just going to walk everything into it, and I mean everything. It's so good against the Celestia token creatures. They all just die on the spot. A Reckless player having to rebuild its entire turn 2, 3, 4 because you etherized him on the next attack step is huge. But we already have a lot of 4-drops, so I'm going to take the Killing Glare because it's a little bit better. As a spot removal, it can take care of creatures like Simic Manipulator that otherwise wouldn't be touched by the Eaterize, and it's a definitive answer. Because we already have the Reckless Guildgate and the Dimir Guildgate, we can reliably get into black. So I think the final decision is that we are going to play an Izzet deck with black instead of an Izzet deck with green. This means we have a couple of more options. We can at least know where we're going right now. This booster holds not many playable cards. Psychic Strike is playable, Horror of Dim is playable, the rest is basically unplayable. I'm going to take the Horror because it's a creature and we might need it in our end game. It's not a really good card, I'll admit, but it's better than nothing. Especially when you're picking your gates very high to get your deck streamlined. You're probably going to lose a bit on card quality, so this card isn't very wrong, especially since the format slowed down a bit from gate crash, gate crash, gate crash. This guy is a good enough doorstopper. Well, now we have another empty booster. That's Death's Approach, which is removal, so I'm going to take this. There's still a decent trick in here. Aerial Maneuver, Shadow Slice is not unplayable if you're into the right aggressive deck. And here we get back to our original booster. The Thespian Stage might act as another gate if we really wanted to, but it's too expensive for that. Especially if you're going 3 colors, having a colorless land is awkward and having to invest in it before it becomes a color mana that you need. Well, it's just awkward. We have this completely void spot of trees, so I'm going to take the Corpse Blockade here as another blocker. You could take the Mortis Strider. I think that the Corpse Blockade is better because it stays in the battlefield. Mortis Strider would be an option if we had Maze of Domination, because that's a nice combo. Here we get another pretty empty booster. There is a Millennial Gargoyle, which is playable, and NASCAR commanders are playable, but not for us. So I'm going to take the Gargoyle so that we at least have enough cards to play. This booster has nothing that we would want to play. Undercity Plague is okay if you're aggressive and you can put some tempo on player and you can just box him every turn. Or small box him every turn. I'm going to take the Night Watch because that's the best card of the booster. And these are just crackers. Here's a Slate Street Ruffian. I'm going to take this for our early game. And once again, sorry about the allergies. My nose seems to be always clogged up these days. So right now we have 20 cards and 4 gates. Of those 20 cards we have a lot of filler cards. We have 2 Clue Stones, we have a Blockade, a Ruffian, a Millennial Gargoyle, Harvest of Dim. Basically okay cards, nothing fancy. We really are going to bank on our Rel Zarek a lot. And perhaps also on our Flux Charger, which hasn't gotten a lot better. We have some removal spells which can trigger him, but that's about it. The dynamic of the deck changed a bit. It seems that red is starting to become splash instead of black, because all of our early game seems to be black. It's something to keep in mind. Here we have Lotla Troll. Lotla Troll is insanely limited. His Regenerate is okay, he has Trample, which makes it worth your while. And I think we can actually play this card. We already have 2 green sources, so it's not a stretch to put it in if black becomes the main color. It does mean we have a double splash. We have a splash on red, we have a splash on green. And the question is this worth it? Well, considering that the rest of the booster is pretty empty, we might take the risk. There's Gore's Chainwalker, which is a red card, which will put us in a 3-color even deck, because it's red early game that we are lacking at the moment, so we can focus our mana based on fixing our blue and our black, getting the red later on from the gates and the blue stone, and perhaps you can pick up a Kirunu or something. So yes, I'm very much inclined to take the London Troll and take the gamble to see if it works out. With a little bit of luck we're getting the Kirun on the pass, and we can actually play it. And the card is good enough for it. I mean, that's not a problem here. The next booster here gives us a couple of playable cards again. There's the Crossdeck Guildmage, which goes well with the Lotlet Troll, but this doesn't go very well in the splash. The first ability is awesome if you use it twice, but if we're going to splash green, not going to happen, and I'm not going to put it in for the last ability. It is amazing with a lot of these X4 and X5 guys, but I think it's still one of the weaker Guildmage abilities, the sacrifice a creature ability. We have Reckless Threat Freak, which is too aggressive for a deck. There's a Tenement Crusher, which makes for a fine late game card again. There's a Perilous Shadow, which is an equally fine late game card. There's also Volatile Rig, which I don't like at all, and there's a Azorius Guild Gate, which is a gate, but gives us a 5th color that we don't need, so it's basically can't pick that island. And with 4 gates already present, we're not really going to use it. We're already overstocked on 4-drops, which is why I'm a bit reluctant to pick the Perilous Shadow. But I think it's a bit better than Tenement Crasher, and these are basically the only cards we are looking for in this booster. We could easily make this a 6 drop as well, it's no problem. Okay, so here we get Rigsmany Guildmage, which I like a lot, even if you're defensive. There's also Large Party, which is solid removal. And the rest of the booster is, there's Vision Racketeer, which is great in decks like these because you can filter off a land you don't need, or perhaps one of the 6 drops for a land that you might need. The Guildmage is really good in the aggressive deck, obviously, because it targets blocking creatures players that lost life this turn. Even so, it is also amazing in the endgame. It can just whittle away at an opponent. But as with the Korosta Guildmage, you need a lot of red and black sources to make it work, and this doesn't look like a deck that's going to support too many red sources. I don't think this card is going to make it. I think we're really going to cut on that department. So I'm going to take the Launch Party, because that is solid removal. And we have no shortage of failure guys if we want to throw away at it. These walls and these early game creatures, they become pretty useless in the late game, and then we can just feed into a Launch Party and be done with it. Here's another gate we really want. Here's another Chromatic Lantern that we want more. And there's a couple of more cards that are interesting. There's Stealer's Secrets, there's Death Reveler. I like these cards. I wouldn't be above playing Syncopate at this point. So basically the choice is between, for this boost, between the Gate and the Lantern. Especially if we want to play the Troll. We can always ditch the Troll plan if it doesn't work out. I like the Gate because it's still something for our Gatekeepers to go on. I like the Lantern because it accelerates into this load of 4 drops and perhaps even the later game cards. Since you already have 4 gates for the Gatekeepers, I'm going to take the Lantern as yet another 3 mana artifact because it fixes all of our colors at once. It makes the Predator easier to play. It fixes our Shadow from having non-black lands, and it accelerates us a little bit more into the 6 drops. If we get another gate, I wouldn't mind taking it, but I think the Lantern is just a little bit better at this point. Okay, here we get a true gift in the Firm Frostburn Weird. It's one of the biggest walls out there in the early game, and one of the best creatures overall to have in your deck. Its switchable power and toughness is really good in both early game, mid game and late game. It's a really solid creature. They're going to play enough blue and red sources to make this work, especially with the Clue Stones, the Chromatic Lantern. It can hold out in early game, it can go attack along with the rest in the end game, and it's pretty solid. I'm just going to take it and be very glad we got it. So this booster gives us another Chainwalker, which is basically too early game for us to work. We can't put any continuing pressure on after the Gatewalker, so I'm really leaning towards taking the Pursuit of Flight, or maybe even the Gatekeeper Vine. The Vine would be a late game fixer, which isn't good enough, I think. Pursuit of Flight though on the Woodlot Crawler or perhaps the Frostburn Weird might make for a very easy game on the early turns. Slapping it onto something later like the Perilous Shadow or the Ripskill Predator and making it truly unblockable is just that much better. So we're just going to take this. It'll be late game to make one of our creatures a bit better than it should be, but that's okay. I mean, it's not as good as in an aggressive deck, but it's still okay in this deck. Here we have Runewing, which is still as good as it was in Triple Return to Ravnica. There's also Goblin Electromancer, which we can't use all that much. We're not really stocking off on instant sorceries. And the red mana is going to make this a late game card, or at least a mid game card. This is the Tenement Crasher, which would take place at the end of the curve, but I really like the Runewing here. It can replace the Millennial Falcon on that spot by being strictly better. Here we have, basically no cards that are going to make the deck. Inspiration might, but we already have so many 4 drops. It works well with the Flux Charger, I'll admit that. So I'm going to take this and put it in the sideboard, see if maybe we want to fiddle it in anyway. Here we have a bunch of unplayable cards. There's Cobble Brute, which is okay. It stops a lot of creatures. I think I'd rather have the Dispel as a sideboard card and take care of anyone who plays a lot of combat tricks or little spells. We are still getting a Tenement Crasher, which is okay. We could consider X-Bane Stack over it because we're maybe going to splash green. I still rather have the Tenement Crasher. And here's the Viashino coming round and the Syncopate coming round. And there's a couple of filler cards. Okay, so overall we have 30 cards laid out here, not including the 4 gates. And it's a pretty awkward pile, I'll admit that. It still looks like it's all over the place in its 3 colors, and there's still the awkward Lot Troll. I think playing the troll is free if we consider him late game because we have 3 green sources, so we have time to wait for it. We'll only have to determine if the mana base can handle this for us right now. If it can, I'd gladly play him. He's good enough for that. So let's see what we're getting. These are all 4. This is a removal spell. Let's see. Use that something to turn. Okay, so basically we're counting this as the removal suit. There's Pursuit of Flight, Spills for Plants. The real questions are going to be what are you going to do with this mana base, because that's the main concern. I think we should focus this on being a blue-black deck, splashing the red certainly, and the green maybe. So I'm going to take the Lot Troll out for a moment and see if we can fit him in. Of those red cards, which of these cards would we want to splash? Well, of course it's going to be a bit heavier red than a regular splash. But still, we can afford to be picky in this department. I don't think something like a Visionary Racketeer is really splash material. But then again, we also have Millennium Gargoyle, Horror of the Dim, and cards like this, which are basically also fillers. So I'm going to put all the filler cards into one pile. I'm putting the Dimir Cluestone in here because it fixes main colors, so it's basically a 3 mana accelerator that then draws a card after it's used. Is that Cluestone still fixes our red mana? So this is a filler card. I don't think the Maga is a filler card. I just think it's a filler card if you're splashing a red. If we were really aggressive, it would be really good. It's very good. It's basically a brute force on the attack step. Otherwise, it's a Hill Giant, which is also okay. So it's a very good card overall. Just when you're splashing it, it gets a bit wonky. So I prefer to stick with this. We also have the Predator, but we are going to play a couple of red sources. I'm going to put it with fillers as well, Pursuit of Flight as well. So this leaves us with 21 cards, not counting the 4 gates again. And this is okay. This deck would probably do what we want it to do. It has some early game deterrence, and then it has some powerful late game cards. Well, Zarek, the Flux Charger, there's the Tenement Crusher, there's decent removal in here. So the real question is, what are we going to put in? There we have 2 more spots. So let's weed out these options. We have the Dimir Cluestone, which basically is not worth our while. We already have 2 mana artifacts which are strictly better than the Cluestone. So we're going to take this out. I'll put the inspiration in because we can consider it. Then we have a couple of decrees. We have a couple of late game cards. I'll put them in this pile. We have a couple of early to mid game support cards. And we have these 3 oddball cards, which are basically a form of card advantage and a way to... I'll put this with the late game cards. It makes a creature a late game creature. I really would like another late game card in this deck. A lot of these cards are good at holding out, but right now we only have Rel Zarek to finish off Perilous Shadow, Flux Charger, Tenement Crasher. And 3 of them are really fragile creatures, and Rel Zarek is really not that much of a powerful planeswalker. His first load up ability does next to nothing, it just untaps stuff. So you're going to use him a lot of the time to... at least you're not going to attack. If you can't tap down a blocker, you're going to use Rel Zarek's +1 for absolutely nothing. If you can tap an attacker, you can then get in, or maybe you can attack with a flyer like Flux Charger and then untap it and basically giving it vigilance. This is not as powerful as, say, a Garruk would be by making a beast or untapping 2 lands or something like that. His Lightning Bolt, on the other hand, is very powerful. It shoots down creatures. It's basically very cheap. You get 2 Lightning Bolts out of a 4 mana Planeswalker. And if you +1 him, then you can get a lot more Lightning Bolt out of it if you can protect him. So, when it comes to closing games, Rel Zarek can do that. I don't think we are going to use -7 in this draft. We could go to -7 and see how many extra turns we can take, but I don't think it's worth the effort. I think it's just better to Lightning Bolt away creatures, and only if he has the same deck as we do with lots of gatekeepers, not enough attacking creatures, we might want to use those extra turns. So I wouldn't be opposed to having another late game card in here. And like I said, a lot of Troll is free, but we only have 12 creatures at the moment, so that kind of diminishes its worth. It does make good use out of all of these walls and other late game cards that we might draw. but it does clunk up our mana base a bit more. Even if it's technically free, it still could be a dead card, so I'm going to discount this. I'm going to take the Ripskill Predator instead. It doesn't bother our mana base as much as the extra greenwood, because we're going to play a lot of red sources anyway. We have 4 red sources for free. I think that 1 or 2 mountains are coming in, and I think that turn 6 to red for a Predator is pretty doable. If we have the Lantern, we don't even need a second red, it's 2 red on its own. And as I said, it's a really good closer. It usually goes 2 for 1. If we have one of our removal spells to go with it, it's going to go a lot for 1 before it dies. And it's basically a quality creature. Now we have one more spot left, which is, well, let's talk about lands. I really do want to play 17 lands this deck, even though I have 2 of these, because of the outcomes of this mana base, and we still are going to bank on having 6 traps in play early. I'm not going to play the Horror of the Dim. I'm going to write it off because it's strictly worse than, I think, something like Rubber Built Maka, which is a mana cheaper, has Blood Rush ability, which is relevant and isn't even that far behind on stats. I think Inspiration is strictly better than Pilfered Plants because it's only 1 color and it's an instant. I think the Visionary Racketeer, just like the Pilfered Plants, does under for Inspiration because of its mana color, it's red, it's our splash color, and it's not an instant, and it loses as a card, so Inspiration beats out that as well. I think the Maka is better than the Gargoyle if we need to choose 4-drop, but this is one of these 3 cards. Only 13 creatures means Pursuit of Flight is out, because it's too unreliable for that. So we're getting another 4-drop, and it's either a Hill Giant with Blood Rush ability or it's Inspiration. Considering that we already have a lot of creatures that are doing well on their own and attacking, Opal Lake Gatekeeper probably won't die. Tenement Crasher and Ripskill Predator already need an extra helping to die. There's also Flux Charger and Perilous Shadow, which are hard to kill, and the other creatures are probably not doing a whole lot of attacking. On the other hand, the Inspiration will help out the Flux Charger. It will help out our plan of being a late game deck and getting just a bit of card advantage to stall the game out. So I'm going to start this with Inspiration, and we can always change back to the Maka if we see a creature heavy deck or a deck with a lot of removal. If you look at the colors, this is an island, this is a mountain. Sorry, this is a 2-color card, this is a mountain. And these 2 fix both for colors. Like I said, I would like 2 mountains in this deck for 6 red sources, so we do have a red source on time. So let's just put them in. There we go, 2 mountains. Means that this card is a mountain. And for other calculations, this is an island. This is both colors, so I'm just putting this to the side. And this is a swamp for the rest of the calculations. We have 11 land spots left. We need a whole lot more blue than black. There's also a Clue Stem which is blue, but it won't help getting our turn to Frostman Weird or turn to Murmuring Phantasm, so I'm not counting this for blue. I am counting it for red. So I want more blue than black. It does hurt our Perilous Shadow a bit, but it'll have to live with that. So I'm going to go with 6 islands and 5 swamps. 6 islands, 5 swamps. Doing a quick count means we now have 7, 8, 9. There's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 blue sources in here, which is fine. A lot of these 4-drops are going to be played on out of one of these 2 cards. I don't mind that. And the 10 sources means that we have 8 sources we have on turn 2 for Frostman Weird and Murmuring Phantasm. That's fine. There's 5, 6, 7, 8 black sources, which is okay. It is squeezing a bit on the Perilous Shadow, but as a 4/8 it's still a huge attacker, so I don't mind that as well. There are 6 red sources, and that's basically all the lands we're going to need. I'm going to submit this, and we'll see how the matches go. Okay, so here we are for the first match and the first game. We have a pretty decent hand. We have 2 colors, and we have a Phantasm and a Course Blockade to hold fort for us. There is some late game in here, like the Ripskill Predator and the Flux Charger, and we also already have a removal spell in the form of Killing Glare. This land would really need to draw a couple of lands to do something, so we probably are going to be looking for that. In the meantime, let's hope our defenders can hold fort and see what our opponent does. If he does present us with a deck with a lot of evasion creatures, this hand isn't as good. We really need the Flux Charger to get active then. But the upside is that decks with a lot of evasion are probably not the most aggressive decks around. Since the most aggressive creatures like the Rakdos deck and the Cruel deck, they don't have a lot of flyers. He starts out with a Zuri's Guild Gate, so, and he has Forest. Okay, so we're looking at a bound color deck. Here's Frostbone Weird, which is a shame we can't cast it off this mana. It's no problem, we have an alternative. Now just going to see what he has. His Azorius side could very well present us with a couple of flying threats. Or you could just be starting to steam out such as Sentry and stuff, which we don't mind at all at this point. There's a Gatekeeper, which does nothing for us yet. So here's the Corpse Blockade. Now we're basically having 2 walls for Sentry. And we can just sit and wait. He could have there are a lot of powerful cards he could have right now. There are cards like Unflinching Courage or Gifts of Orzhova, which can really ruin the day right now. We do have removal spells for those, but they're all red, so we're going to need to draw out of those if he has anything like that. Barring those, I think we're in a very good position. He has Glutestone, which takes even more tempo out of his game. And here's our first gate. It's our island gate. He's going to lie it down. Next turn it will afford us to play Frostbone Weird. And we can wait with the Gatekeeper till we have another gate. I feel no pressure from him at this point, so no point in wasting the Gatekeeper ability on playing it early. There's another Cluestone, which I don't mind at all. It does ramp him into some of the better creatures for the late game, like Vitu-Ghazi Guildmage, but unfortunately for us we have Killing Glare. And I am going to Killing Glare that anyway. Here it goes. Here's a Woodlot Crawler, which is very good against him, and now the question is, do I want the Crawler or Weird? And I want the Crawler, so you can start pushing in a bit of damage. The Weird would be yet another good blocker. It could probably attack, but if he has another creature then it couldn't anymore. So I'm just going to go with Crawler because it can go in there, deal this 2 damage a turn. And just go and soften him up for the big hitters like the Flux Charger. He doesn't seem to be having a whole lot of anything. The Sentry still is on his own, not doing much. And here's Sapphire Drake, and Sapphire Drake is flying, so that's annoying. We really could use a red source right now to activate the Flux Charger and get it to block Sapphire Drake. You can also have a trick like Give or Take now to make the Sentry a huge problem for us. So we're going to need to draw something. Now we have the choice here between putting down the State Street Ravnica and the Frostbone Weird. I think the Weird would be a bit better because it's a bit more free to attack. The Ruffian is just a 2-2. He can probably handle it with one of the bigger creatures he's going to draw inevitably in those colors. And the Frostbone Weird has a bit more going for it. Here's Last Thought. He's going to put it on the Drake for card advantage. Okay, and he did nothing with his extra cards. Here's Chromatic Lantern for us, fixing our mana, which is good. I'm just going to send in these 2 creatures. He has the option of blocking the Weird with the Sentry, and then we have the option to trade it or not. At this point I'm inclined to trade it. I'm inclined to not trade it because I don't think the Sentry is doing a whole lot. I'm just going to pump this. We could have played the Lantern before combat and pump it twice. Which probably would be better. He had the chance to eat one of his key runes, I think, but he didn't. So that indicates he might want to use the mana, or he just forgot. Here's the Drake coming in again. Going to draw him another card. This is the point where you really would want to start looking for an answer for Sapphire Drake. stop his card advantage game plan. And there's Crown Triceratops, which doesn't bother us too much at this point. Here's Mugging. Mugging is actually okay to draw because it lets the Flux Charger deal extra damage. Let's see, we need to play the Flux Charger so we can block the Drake. We could also just use the Mugging on the Sentry, but Sentry has been a pointless creature all game, so I'm not going to do that. I would send in the Crawler, it's still unblockable. We could hold it back to block the Ceratops, but it will trample all over it. And the other cards are pretty much okay in blocking the Ceratops. Here comes the Flux Charger. I'm going to leave a land open instead of the Lantern because he might have artifact destruction. Let's see where it goes from here. If he does have a combat trick or a removal spell for Flux Charger, well, we're going to need to draw something fast for that Drake. If he doesn't have that, well, that's if he sent he held the Rhino back. If he had sent it in, we blocked it with all the 3 guys, pumped this once, and traded one of these 3 for the Rhino. That's a pretty good deal in my opinion. This is just hoping that he has nothing, but he has 4 cards in hand. He hasn't been playing anything, so I am expecting a trick here, which would kill the Flux Charger. And it's Slaughterhorn. That's okay. There the Charger goes, so now we need to draw an answer. And we draw a Swamp, which means we get access to a Ripskill Predator. So we're not out of this race yet. Let's see how we're going to do this. We're just going to attack with the Woodlot Crawler. I'm not sending in the Frostbone Weird because I don't want to trade this for the Ceratops or the Sentry at this point, and if he double blocks it, I'm forced to. And I really want to deploy the Ripskill Predator. It's the only way that we're going to outrun the Sapphire Drake. Unless we draw a removal spell. So here it is. The advantage of him having Slaughterhorn instead of a removal spell means he didn't draw a card last turn, so we did stop his Drake for a single turn. But he has something else. He has Advent of the Worm. Well, that's nasty. It's a 5/5 trample. And he's going to eat a Clue Stone. Okay. Well, he has a lot of card advantage by now. He drew 4 more cards, 3 of his Drake and 1 of his Clue Stone. He does have a lot of lands. So I don't think he missed a couple of land drops at the start, but he might still be holding a couple more lands, but I think there will be a trick in there somewhere. So we need to be careful what we're doing with our creatures. He doesn't feel very confident attacking with his Vermin Ceratops, so if he has a combat trick, it's probably not a very good one. He passes the turn, and here's Rel Zarek. Rel Zarek is going to do a couple of things for us, I suppose. We can play him this turn with Mugging, and then take care of the Sentry and the Crowned Ceratops, which means that he has only the Worm left to block, and our Predator and Woodlot Crawler are going to pass through. We could also mug the Sentry and attack with all 3 creatures, seeing if he wants to trade off the Predator or not, and Lightning Bolt him to the face if he leaves it through. Maybe being a bit greedy and blocking the Frostbone Weird. We can also use it to +1, tap the Worm or the Ceratops, and just attack. It will guarantee a hit with the Predator. The Crawler will be hitting anyway, and the Frostbone Weird will be blocked by the other one, which will probably be the Ceratops. If we +1, his Drake can't counterattack on the Velzeric and kill it. And the worm we can still block with either of these walls. So that's actually looking pretty good. If we just attack, if you just play Velzeric, tap the worm, mug this guy, attack with everything. He needs to block this, so he will. These will trade. So this one dies, he'll be left with a worm and the Sapphire Drake, and we'll still have a Velzeric at 5, ready for next turn. Alternatively, if we use the Lightning Bolt, then this guy will die, he still has the worm. We have Frostbone Weird to block, but we have a Velzeric on 2, so he can spend an attack step with the Drake to kill Velzeric. Let's see. And if he kills Velzeric, then next turn the Woodlot Crawler will kill him, because he takes 8 damage this turn. And we will have an extra blocker, which might be relevant for the worm token. So yes, I'm going to go for the... Let's see, for the Velzeric that shoots the Rhino. Although he might still have a trick, but if he uses a trick to pump the Rhino... Well, let's consider that first. If he has a trick to pump the Rhino, so if we... Then it doesn't matter if we attack with this, because he will block it and then it'll still survive. I think tapping is more solid. It lets us play around giant growth and stuff. But on the other hand, if he does have giant growth, he will only save his Ceratok. He can then block the Ripskull Predator to kill. It's a difficult choice. It's basically deciding between wanting to play around the trick that he might have. But then again, if he has a decent trick, he can probably attack us back with these 3 creatures and kill us then anyway. So I'm just going to shoot the Rhino and see where it goes. So here's Velzeric. It's also with Velzeric on 2, he might be tempted to kill it with the Drake. While it's on 5, he might be tempted to just attack us, which might be a bit better if he draws an out in next turn. And the chance that he is buying us a free turn might be very relevant. If he has something like Burst of Strength, oh yes, Deputy of Acquittals. Okay, so this will be one of those tricks that we were talking about. He's going to save the Crime Ceratok. Okay. Then I'm just going to mug out. If we play mugging on the sentry, then he can regenerate it. That's also something I hadn't considered yet. We can start mugging on the deputy, which is probably just as good. And if we attack, we trade this for the worm. He goes to 8. It is not enough to kill him in 2 turns. Can also mug the worm, and then he has to double block this with these 2 creatures, killing both of them, but then again the sentry will regenerate again. Or we can just kill the deputy, and he has to block with these 2, and then we trade for the worm as well. So we're just going to kill this guy, this one. We're going to attack with these 2. We can send in the weird again, and he will not be lethal on the backswing. So yeah, I'm going to send in the weird because we need to do this damage race right now. And even if he ignores Velzeric and attacks us with the Sapphire Drake, we need to be able to lethal him next turn on these 2 creatures, because I'm assuming the Ripskull Predator will die then. If he chooses to kill the Frostbone Weird, then this one will be lethal on its own, so he has to focus Velzeric or kill us this turn. And he has to finance for a Woodlot Crawler, so yeah, I'm fine with that. Okay, I'm just going to put the worm first. That seems like the right thing to do. And I'm going to put 1 point in this one. So now he's on 6, which means that if he doesn't focus Velzeric, that these 2 creatures can finish him next turn. If he does focus Velzeric, we bought ourselves an extra turn, which still will be cutting it close, but it's still doable. Or he might still have a trick to save his worm. His Simic Charm, another one of those cards which could have, well, better that he used it to save the worm than to kill us. So let's see what he does now. It kind of depends on the spells he's holding. At least we know what tricks we have to play around here. We already saw Slaughterhorn and Deputy of Acquittals, the Simic Charm, and of course the advent of the worm itself. This is one of the decks against which the Eaterize would have been really good. It could have gotten rid of the Last Thought, it would destroy the worm, it would probably neutralize this Alpha Strike, which is inevitable at one point. It also neutralized the Vidocasi Guild Mage, because at one point he's just going to send everything in, you Eaterize everything, and it has to reset. I don't think he has drawn a lot of good cards right now. There is no good attack step looking at it from this side. If these 2 creatures attack, I'll just Corpse Blockade the Worm and Marine Phantasm the Sentry. Okay, they're both... this one is going to take out Velzeric and the Worm is coming at us. So I'm just going to block the Worm. I'm going to block with both, see if I can confuse him. I'm going to sacrifice the Marine Phantasm anyway. He might have another trick like Giant Growth to trample all over us, but we're going to die to Giant Growth anyway, so could sacrifice one of these 2, but then we will never be able to raise that one. Also Giant Growth and trampling over just cuts the turn off. We still have a turn to draw an answer for Sapphire Drake then. Now comes the Crown Ceratok. Oh, he is Greenside Watcher first. Here's Crown Ceratok. Let's see what we draw. Tenement Crusher. That's okay. He'll need to block Tenement Crusher with something, which will probably be the Greenside Watcher. And he'll be lethal on the backswing because he will have 3 attackers. We can't block the Drake and we can block the Greenside Watcher. Or we can afford to not block the Greenside Watcher. Which means we should be prepared to have an answer for the Crown Ceratok and Slash Sentry. We have only 6 mana. So we would have been better off with having another land so we could play these 2 guys. As it is, the Tenement Crusher can be lethal in 1 turn if we deal him 1 with along with the Woodlot Crawler if he goes all out. I don't think he will go all out if we keep all these blockers up. So what I think is best is just attack with the Woodlot Crawler, putting him on 4, and then playing the Opal Gatekeeper, providing us with 2 blockers. We'll give him incentive to attack with everything. And there's a block for us that will give us keep either of these 2 blockers alive, along with the Crawler to be lethal on the backswing. It does mean wasting the extra card draw, but I don't think that's going to be rewarding anyway. If we draw a gate on our next turn and then we spend 4 mana for this, the card we're going to draw we can't play. So I'm just going to attack him with Crawler, putting him on 4. And then I'll play the Gatekeepers. All of these for blue. So now it's once more down to does he have a trick or not. He already showed us an impressive array of tricks already. Simic Charm, Slaughterhorn, Deputy of Acquittals. I'm wondering how many more of those cards you would want in one deck. Of course, Slaughterhorn is a creature, so... Okay, so he attacks with these 2. We just double block the Crown Ceratok, dealing with it. Trading it 1 for 1, which is the best we can ask for, I suppose. Leaving us with one of these 2 creatures. And leaving him with 2 blockers, so the Tenement Crusher isn't going to cut it. We really need a removal for the Drake now. Yes, Simic Flux Mage. That's probably what he drew from there. And here's an island that does nothing for us either. And we're just going to die to the Drake, so I'm not even going to show him the tenement pressure, because then he can play around it next game. I'm just going to attack the Woodlot Crawler, pretend like nothing's going on. And then maybe he'll show us another card. He's just sending in everything but the Flash Mage. Let's just block this, see if he cares to regenerate it. He probably will. He doesn't even. Okay, so this game was won. Even though we had a timely Rel Zarek, well, it would have been better if it was a turn earlier. But it was pretty much still on time, and we pretty much lost to the Sapphire Drake with the last thoughts. I'm going to board in the Dispel versus Advent of the Worm or any of the multitude of tricks that he showed us. This is something that isn't good against him. I think the Street Ruffian is a bit below the level for this matchup. The rest is also pretty fine, so I'm just going to take this out and submit the deck. And he seemed to have a bit of a late game deck, so there's no rush in the play here. He did have some 2-drops, 3-drops if you have a lot of balls for that, so I'm going to let him play first and fix our mana with our draws. Okay, so this hand has all of the mana we need. We have the Murmuring Phantasm to stall the early game with the Syncopate, but we have nothing to do in the late game. If he does have a start of 2 creatures, we're totally committed to our draws. I do think we have enough late game to make it worth our while, so I'm going to keep this. And only because we have all the colors that we need. And because we're on the draw. Here's Mugging, which can help us out even more in the early game. This Greenside Watcher, he doesn't have a gate yet, so I don't feel tempted to kill it just yet. I'm just going to put the Murmuring Phantasm out there. Here's another one, should this one die to one of his tricks. There's an island. Still no gate, so his Watcher has nothing to do. And there's just Sentry. That's Approach, another of the early game removal spells, so I don't mind having that one. I'm going to put the next Phantasm in it, keeping these two off of our backs. I'm not going to waste any of the removal spells on these two guys, they're not important enough right now. Should one of our walls die, then they would, or maybe I need to kill one of those to make the Death's Approach work. But right now something like the Simic Flux Mage is just better to get rid of. Okay, so there's land, we still have nothing to do in the end game. Simic Flux Mage is dangerous because it can get bigger and it eventually can help his other guys get big enough for our walls. And it's a very tedious balance, so I'm just going to take this out before it gets too big. I don't think Mugging can take out a whole lot bigger creatures. That's the Vita guys and Guildmates that we saw, that might be a better target. But that's about it. So I'm really counting on a Syncopate to get us through his next big attacker. Death's Approach can always deal with the Greenside Watcher if need be. And now it's just waiting for us to draw any late game card that is not Ripped Skilled Predator. There's Brush Strider, and I'm pretty okay with just using Death's Approach and Brush Strider. Stalls his early game a little bit more. He has a Deputy of Acquittals. If I counter this, I get the Brush Strider to go along with it. If I don't counter this, I'll have to deal with all of these creatures, and we don't have the power to do that right now. So it leaves us little choice than to counter the Deputy of Acquittals. And now we've traded basically all of our removal for a lot of small guys on his side. And we're pretty evened out. He has 3 cards, we have 2 cards, but one of those is Inspiration. He doesn't have any more lands. He has shown us. Here's Stealer of Secrets, just another random small creature on the board. There's another island, just going to play it and play Inspiration in his turn instead of an ours. so that we can still, we already showed them that we have syncopates, we might be playing cancel or anything like that. It certainly would be the deck for it, so I'm going to let him think that we could have it. He's going to attack, he deals 2 damage, that's okay. Just block this guy and this guy. And here comes Life and Wealth for 3/3 Centaur and 8 life. That's pretty good. It's not as horrifying as I was imagining. It's good enough. And here we have Flux Charge and Is It Bluestone. And we can play both of those in this turn, so I'll just put Bluestone out first. And then I'll put the Flux Charger in after. The Flux Charger will provide us with another wall. One that can actually kill the green side Watcher, which is good. And the Cluestone provides us with just a cycle card for something better. Trying to dig a bit further. If we draw the Rip Skill Predator in this draw step, we will probably cast that instead of eating Bluestone, but otherwise we're just going to eat it next turn. And here's the Crown Ceratok. Also not much of a problem, it's still one of the creatures that's there. There's no attack step for him because his Watcher won't survive this combat. And here's Rel Zarek. Playing Rel Zarek right now is a bit of a gamble. If we +1 him and he attacks with everything, then he will die. Or he'll take 4, go to 1 and be otherwise completely useless. If we -2 him, then he will focus everything and he will still die. So I'm not really comfortable playing him right now. Instead I'm just going to eat this Bluestone and see what we draw. It's the Mere Guildgate, that's not useful at all. I'm going to keep everyone back to minimize the damage we're going to take next turn. And we are really going to need to draw an action creature right now that can hold off one of his smaller creatures. Something with 2 or 3 power. His last thoughts. He's going to put it on one of his creatures so that we need to block that. It's Crown Ceratok. It makes sense, there's Trample, so that's the best chance of getting through. He probably threw that Plains out of it, or at least the land out of it. Here come all the creatures that won't die to our team. And we'll just lock like this. We'll take 3 damage from Centaur token. And here's Perilous Shadow, and that's excellent because it's another one of the walls that we were looking for. And it forces us to play the Rel Zarek this turn without him dying when he casts a Lightning Bolt. He might still die if our opponent has a trick or something like that. But I'm willing to take that risk right now because we need to go and do something. There goes the Ceratok. We'll keep everyone back. There's 1/1 block for each of them. He might have a trick to kill our blockers, or at least one of our blockers, but I'm not really afraid of that. Here's Zer's Guildgate and a Cluestone, which is the last card in his hand, which means that Rel Zarek is probably going to live another day. That's good news, because it means we can attack with Perilous Shadow, deal some damage, and then untap the Shadow and have it on the blocker side again. Or do the same with Flux Charger if you were so inclined. It also gets Rel Zarek right out of the reach out of his 2 power creatures, which is good enough. Here's even another blocker for us. Let's see, we can pump this 4 times, giving it 12 toughness, and he doesn't have 12 power, so I'm just going to attack the Perilous Shadow. He can't kill it. What we can do, we can play both of these cards. At least I think we didn't play a land. Let's see what the chat says. No, we didn't play a land this turn, so we have we can pump it twice, untap it, play the card blockade instead of 2 mana to activate to kill one of his attackers. That seems like a pretty good deal. Okay, so we tap his forest and untap the Perilous Shade. We'll play the island and Corpse Blockade, leaving us with no cards in hand, but I don't feel I should be bluffing anything right now. What's out there is out there, and it should probably be good enough to get rid of his army. He doesn't have any particularly impressive creatures lying on the board, so and that might be Sapphire Drake, and this Sapphire Drake. Sapphire Drake might be a bit of a worrying creature, because if he has removed the Flux Charger, he can get to our Wells Eric again. I think this removal consists of combat tricks, so I'm not overly concerned about him getting through immediately. I would send the Perilous Drake. The Perilous Shadow. He can kill it by blocking with everything right now, but I think it's worth it to kill the Sapphire Drake and keep our Wells Eric safe. If we pump him one more time this round, doing 6 damage. We could put in one more, but I really want to get it to 2 power to kill Seal of Secrets. Let's see, we'll just use this. We could use the Lightning Bolt, one of these guys, out of the game. But I think I'd prefer to just do it like this. This might be actually one of the situations where we could use Wells Eric at 7. I think him being 4 right now is good enough to survive run in with one of the lesser creatures. He drew another Clue Stone, so he's desperately digging for something to get through our defenses. I also like how he's continuously tapping out for such a sentry, because he could use it to regenerate, to block Perilous Shadow and regenerate. Sapphire Drake is coming in for Wells Eric, and he's eating the Clue Stone in combat. I don't know what he's trying to prove with that, but it does limit the amount of tricks he could have, so there was no doubt that I was going to block this, but now I'm pretty sure that it's going to survive, as it does. And that's his turn. Here's Launch Party, which is incredible to get rid of the Drake. He does still have a Simic Charm, so I'm going to do this turn. I also want to attack with the Flux Charge to deal 5 damage this time around. But that means if we sacrifice something, we won't have enough blockers, so we need Wells Eric to get rid of one of these creatures. He has mana for his Deputy of Acquittals. We already counted one, but there might be another one. So I'm going to see if I can kill the Celestial Sentry. If he does have another Deputy, he probably wants to save that. He isn't showing it. So now we can just attack with these 2 creatures. No, we can't attack Shade, sorry, miscounting that, so I'm just going to attack the Flux Charger and hit him in the face for a whole lot of damage. So we're going to launch Party Sapphire Drake. I'm going to sacrifice one of these. We have 2 of those. Flux Charger can switch power and toughness. Yes, we want to do that. Deal 5 damage. It's for a total of 7 damage this turn, meaning it goes down to 11. 11 makes the Perilous Shade lethal, so now he has to go around, jump the Perilous Shade every turn. So I see this game swinging in our favor right now. We don't even need Wells Eric anymore. If he does have a removal spell for anything but the Shade, you can kill Wells Eric, that's no problem. Here's a Guild Gate, I'm not needing that. I'm just going to attack with the Shade and the Flux Charger. He has to block the Shade or he dies. He might have a trick like Simic Charm and return it to our hand. So I'm not going all out on this. Just enough to get him interested. I'm fine with letting him take 5. Okay, so he decided not to jump. He might be bluffing his Simic Charm. If you had already seen it, I'd have gone all in and went in for the kill with Wells Eric on top. As it is, I'm just going to untap the Shade for another round of blocking. Here comes Advent Worm. So you could have actually killed the Shade if you wanted to. And if he goes all in on the Wells Eric right now, he just loses to our counterattack. So I'm just going to cherry pick some of his creatures off. Probably the Watcher and the Centaur. We could also consider just blocking the Worm with Perilous Shade and keeping back the Seal of Secrets and the Centaur. Or keeping back the Princess Watcher with Crossfade. Like Seal of Secrets get Wells Eric to 1 That's also fine. If the Estimated Charm kills Relzeric, no problem there. I'm fully expecting the Shade to win us this game for us. He could also be attacking us with everything, which is probably a desperation gamble. But no, he's putting everything on Relzeric. So I'm of half a mind of just letting him die. But I really wanted to see if he still has a trick or something, and keeping Relzeric alive is not a bad thing. If I block like this and he has Simic Charm, he kills Perilous Shade, but Relzeric lives on 1. It will be taking some time to get back from this. So I'd rather he just kill Relzeric and get rid of Stealer Secrets. That way Perilous Shade and Flux Charger can still be going on about him. We can also consider killing the worm like this, sacrificing one of the other creatures. This will kill Relzeric as well, because he'll take trample damage. So I'm not really convinced that is a good block either. We could also do this block, keeping everything safe, keeping Relzeric on the table, and I think this might be the best block for us. We're going to lose the Murmuring Phantasm. That's okay, it's done its value. Relzeric lives this turn, so the Perilous Shade can just attack and do its thing. And we still got to kill this Centaur and the Greenside Watcher, so no problems there. If he has the Simic Charm, he can still kill Relzeric if he wants to, but then he loses it to fix our Shade. If he saves it to fix our Shade on the backswing next turn, then we still have the Relzeric to do something with. Okay, he has 2 creatures left. And he's going to play Bronzebeak Moa, which is probably a blocker for him right now. Here we have Chromatic Lantern, a card that does nothing for us at the moment. So what I'm going to do, I need to use this anyway, so I'm going to tap the Bronzebeak Moa. Wait, I'm just first going to put some mana into the Shade. And then I'm going to tap the Bronzebeak Moa and tap our Swamp. If he does bounce the Shade this turn, we can just replay him. I don't even need to send in the Flux Charger, the Shade will do enough on its own. We could send it in if he does have a removal spell or anything like that. We still have delta damage with the Flux Charger, but I'd rather have him as a blocker for any one of these creatures. But maybe this is good enough. Yeah, this is good enough, we didn't have anything, so overthinking the situation. Seeing this, I am going to put in the Horror of the Din for the last game. He showed us a lot more early game creatures with 3 or less power, against which the Horror of the Dim is really valuable. As we saw, we can still get completely trashed by having only 0 power creatures, so you can just build up until you draw something decent. So Horror of the Dim can fix that for us. What are we going to take out for this? I'm not really sure. I think that we could confidently take out something like Inspiration. It was okay this turn, but we didn't really need it. We had all the time in the world at that point, so it seemed like something extra. There's also the clock to worry about with only 5 and 7 minutes left. They're both running short, so I'm going to play a bit faster, not explaining everything. I'm keeping this. This is awesome. We have all of our colors. We have another defender and a removal spell. So it's a bit the same like the last hand. And here's Flux Charger to complement this hand on some endgame. He has no 2-drop, which is good for us. Here's a Reckless Guildgate. A bit of overkill, but now we can activate the Clue Stone to draw a card as well, so nothing wasted. He has his band colors out again, so anything's possible. And it's Stealer of Secrets. It's okay. We haven't seen any just creature removal right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and put the Clue Stone in. If I knew we had something to take care of Murmuring Phantasm, I would have played the Corpse Blockade, because I don't want to give him an extra card. As it is, I want to develop Flux Charger as soon as possible. And it's a bit influenced by the fact we only have 5 minutes on our clock and we don't have all the time that we need. Here's the Sky Knight. I wish I had seen that, but no problem. He'll just get an extra card from the Stealer. Next turn we can still play the Flux Charger and it'll be able to block the Sky Knight for us. So no problems there. Here's Dispel, which means I'm going to play the island instead of the Rector's Guild Gate, because I want to keep the spell up for one of his tricks, like Simic Charm or perhaps his Advent of the Worm. Also, the spell makes us turn the Flux Charger around, so it could be good for trading with one of his big attackers. If he has a Sapphire Drake again and he wants to do a trick on it, and we can just then put the Flux Charger on killing duty. I think that he has a trick, so we're just going to block this. I want to see his Simic Charm. Yes, Celestial Charm. That's good enough, I'll counter that as well. Nope, I'm not going to switch this. And we're getting a nice 2 for 1. And he tapped his green mana to do that, so I was hoping he had nothing left this turn, but yes, the Flux Mage. Which is okay, I'm not as bothered by it as I was last game. So, I'm just going to send in the Flux Charger. I'm going to play the Murmuring Phantasm instead of the Corpse Blockade, so that I have mana open to use the Killing Glare on the Secret, on Stealer Secret and Simple Flux Mage, should he want to use any of those. He might be holding the Advent of the Worm, but isn't able to cast it yet. Here's Bronzebeak Moa. That will make his Flux Mage grow a bit. I have no problem with that at this point. It's going to be a problem if you can do it a lot and you can shift them around, but so far no harm done. Here's a mountain, so we can certainly eat our Cluestone. I'm going to send the Flux Charger, play the Corpse Blockade. At the end of his turn, eat the Cluestone. All in all, keeping mana up from Killing Glare should we need it. I think I need to Killing Glare the Bronzebeak Moa in his turn. He's going to play Creature. It's alive and well. Yep, I'm just going to respond with the Killing Glare. We might have done it in our turn because I actually knew it should be killed. And we would have done a whole lot of damage with a whole lot more damage with Flux Charger. It would have probably been better. No, I did not use the ability. Okay, so the Flux Mage evolves again. His creatures are still too small to burst through our walls. And he got a lot of life back for Flux Charger. Going to need something that can finish fast now. Here's an island that's not able to finish fast. I'm going to do the same thing he did by eating the Cluestone mid-combat. I'm playing too fast because I have to worry about the clock. This card is really good against him. So I'm going to just let it join in the fun. Pass the turn. Woodlot Crawler can hold off the Centaur and more of his green creatures. Alternatively, it can go in and just help us win on damage. I'm actually of half a mind of winning this on the timer. And not because I want to drag this game on, but I think that he plays slower than I do, and his timer is ticking away a bit faster than ours. By nature I am a pretty fast player, so I don't need to think about a lot of these things, I just do them. The reason that this match is taking so long is because I'm explaining all this to you guys, and I'm taking my time with it. So. As you can see, his clock is already, I don't know if the resolution is good enough for you to see that, but his clock just passed mine. So he's below us on time right now. So we'll just see how it ends up. We draw another land. I'm just going to attack with the Flux Charge and the Woodlot Crawler again. He'll take 3 damage. And we'll play the Swamp. Last turn. He drew second forest, so he might have had Advent of the Worm now. He might have a Sapphire Drake if this is his 6 mana. Yep, Sapphire Drake means the Flux Mage will evolve and will have flying. So we're going to lose the damage base if it stays like this, but he didn't see it and forgot to attack us. Good news for us. And we'll keep the Flux Charger back. Just attack him with the Woodlot Crawler, it has nothing else to do. I'll put down an island. he's still taking about 30 seconds a turn, so I have hopes that he will just lose his time on this game. It's not looking good. There are a lot of cards we can draw to turn this around, so I'm not too worried about this. He's going to detain something, which is Flux Charger, dealing us 8 damage this turn, or perhaps he still didn't see that this guy flies and deals us only 4. Here's the Centaur coming in, some Flux Mage coming in, and I'm not worried about any of those creatures. So I'm just going to block them like this. Take 8 from his team. He would still need 3 attack steps to get through us. And he has a Ascended Law Mage, not a flying creature. Bad news for us, here's Death's Approach. He has 2 creatures in his graveyard, so that's not optimal. I'm just going to attack him with the Woodlot Crawler because that can block anyway. And I'm going to put the Death's Approach on Sapphire Drake. And he's sending in everything, which is good news for us, because I'm just going to block it like this. This is going to block the Flux Mage, and I'm going to kill his Sealer of Secrets, giving Sapphire Drake -1/-1, buying us another turn. Eat this wall. I should have eaten the wall that wasn't blocking. So if he did, of course, of Might or something, then the Centaur wouldn't instantly lethal us. Here's Breast Strider, another creature that I could kill to let him fall down. And here's Simic Cluestone. I don't mind Simic Cluestone. Here's the Gatekeepers. It's going to do nothing for us again. I am going to play it out anyway, because I want to have the extra blockers. He's getting really close to us with the other creatures right now. This one goes in. And let's see what he does. He's going to eat the Cluestone. I can live with that. If he attacks with everything, we can block the Simic Flux Mage. He has Veto Burst, and that's probably the end of it for us. He plays on the wrong creature, he plays on the Sapphire Drake. If he did have a removal spell, we would blow him out right now. So he's definitely misplaying this, but he's still going to win. And if you're going to use this as an argument as to why Veto Burst would be a good card, let me stop you right there and say that any trick would have been good here at the moment. So, and he also has the Slaughterhorn. Yeah, so we die. Okay, so far for this draft, I didn't think this deck was too good. It was decent enough, but we lost the first round to the creature deck with a lot of tricks. I'm not going to leave you hanging like this. I'm going to do another draft for you. So just stick around and I'll see you in the second draft. Okay, so welcome in the next draft we're doing. Just rolling on. And we opened up this booster. I can tell you that I feel like drafting a bit more of an aggressive deck instead of one of those hold on, let's see what we're doing decks. So let's see what this booster has. There is of course War Leader's Helix, which I like a lot. It's not as good as Lightning Helix was back in its day, but it's still pretty relevant. It also takes care of most walls in the format. There is Sin Collector, which I like a lot. It's usually a creature that can take care of a really powerful spell. It's pretty good in all stages of the game. I like Yelin Sphinx for being very decent, being a good attacker. There's also Punish the Enemy, which is a prime removal spell. I think it's not as good as the Helix, so that would be outdone. I don't like Fatal Fumes. It's way too costly, especially if you compare it with like Punish the Enemy or Warlord's Helix as well. There's a Mossdog, which is decent. I'm thinking that one of the white-blue, white-red or blue-red cards is going to table, so I'm going to take the Helix and see if I can go Boros with a little splash onto another color. Which brings us to the second booster, and if we are planning on taking red, white, blue, which I think is an amazing combination in this format, we are looking at Deputy of Acquittals and Wind Drake as our options. If we decide to be a bit more open-minded and go red, white and black, we have the very powerful Tit Drinker, as well as the Spike Chester, which is a bit less powerful, but still a very good 2-drop. There's a gate if we want to pair up a green, but I find that most aggressive decks have no real use for the gatekeepers. They're usually stallers and provide a bit of late game cover. There's also Protect and Serve, one of the lesser split cards, and Wear and Tear, the least of the split cards. There's a Steeple Rock, which is a bit overpriced for what it does, but still a decent flying creature. But I feel like taking the Tit Drinker here is the correct play. It's certainly one of the better 2-drops in the format, and I really don't mind having white as my main color and either red or black as a second one, and a supporting color in the other. I would prefer getting white and black, of course, because the Tit Drinker is better on turn 2 than it is on turn 6. Let's see what this booster holds. This booster has very little for our Orzhov plan. There's Higher Torture, which is playable. It's a nice defender, and its ability is not useless. It'll become worthwhile in the late game. It's expensive, I'll give it that. The rarest Notion Thief, which is good and limited. We have a Gruul Guildgate, which fixes none of the colors we're primarily concerned about right now, and there is Royal Belt Maka, as explained last time. It's pretty decent. There are 3 clue stones in here, none of which are pretty appealing right now. None of the clue stones are pretty appealing right now, so I'm going to take the Maka. And this booster gives us Blood Scrivener as another 2-drop. There's another Steeple Rock, there's a powerful Give and Take in the 2 colors we're not playing. Dimir Guildgate in the 2, well, in 1 color we're not playing at least. Sorry. And there are Windrake and Deputy Quittles if we are going to consider blue again. This booster is pretty awkward as well, forcing us into a direction. If we want to go the Orzhov route, then Blood Scrivener is definitely the card for us. It's a decent 2-drop, it does something in the late game, so it's not wrong. There's also Steeple Rock if you want to stay on the Boros plan and disregard the Tit Drinker. I do think the Tit Drinker is powerful enough, and that Blood Scrivener and Steeple Rock are about the same power level. I don't really feel like getting into green or blue right now, so I'm going to take the Blood Scrivener. And here we are rewarded with Hazda Snare Squad. There's also Zori's Guildgate in here, so if we went the blue route, we could have taken that and had a bit of mana fixing. That said, Hazda Snare Squad is a really good creature. There's enough toughness to survive most combats. It can attack and lock down something else, basically granting safe passage, something like Tit Drinker or the Blood Scrivener. And it's a really good 3-drop. Also, if you are low on gas, you just need something to hold back the fort. This will do that for you. We could alternatively take the Banelli Black card, which is awful. Well, it's playable, but it's nothing to be excited about. And there are some irrelevant clue stones as well. There's also Restored Peace, which looks like Eat Rice, but really isn't. It'll unsummon your own creatures as well. So it's strictly worse than Eat Rice, I think, in my opinion. Here's Renounce the Guild. Each player sacrifices a multicolor permanent. It's situational removal. We also have the Sunspire Gatekeepers. Should we get up on enough gates, then Maze of Illumination as a generic fatty. There's a Runner's Bane is removal, but it's no more colors, so let's disregard it. I don't think that this card is solid enough. The problem is it's symmetrical, so it'll hit you in the face as well. And there are good chances that your opponent will just not have any multicolor permanents that you would want him to sacrifice. I mean, it's okay if he has to sacrifice something, but if he can sacrifice one of his, like Deputy or Quittle or something even as Tit Drinker, not worth the effort. We don't have any gates yet, so I don't see the Gatekeeper doing much, so I'm just going to take the Abomination. And then here we get the choice basically between the Higher Torturer and Depth of the Deathless. Mace Sentinel and another Gatekeeper I disregard immediately because this guy for 6 mana at 3/6 is not good enough. I at least wanted to have 4 power and be 4/5. It is also the Dead Touch is relevant, well the Vigilance is marginally relevant. Smeltboard Gatekeepers needs lots of gates. There's a Rectus Clue Stone if you want to solidify some splashing into red, but I'm not really looking forward to doing that yet. So I'm going to take the Depth of the Deathless, which is a good way to finish. It deals a lot of damage, especially in the late game. And if we can pick up a few more clue stones along the way, then we can ramp into it, which is pretty good. We are getting the gift of a late Guildgate. Not going to argue, there are 2 clue stones which we could pick right now because we do want the fixing and well, we do have the depth, so we are going to play some late game cards. That said, the gate is infinitely better, and there are still lots of opportunities to get more clue stones if we want them. I think Nivik Cyclops is a very exciting creature, however it's not on our colors, so here we're choosing between the Mason Rusher with 6 mana or Higher Torturer 3, in which I prefer the Higher Torturer. It's just, it provides the same late game coverage that the Mason Rusher would cover with its mana cost. The haste on multicolored creatures is not really relevant, the haste itself is, but as a 6-3 it bumps into every centaur along the way, which is a bit underwhelming. And 6 mana really is expensive. So there's Morg Burst here. I'm not really a fan of Morg Burst, but all the other cards are not as good, so I'm just going to take it. Another one of the 6 mana cards, if we had the Mace Rusher, this probably wouldn't be compatible anymore. Here's another Higher Torturer, or is a 2-stone. This is just mismatching the colors, so I'm going to take the Torturer. And here we get basically a slew of unplayables. Here's another Morg Burst. I'm going to put the second one in the unplayables because I don't want that many 6-drops. And at least not 6 drops of this quality. This is situational. It could be removal, but it could not be. I think it on average will do 2 or 3 damage, which is basically not enough. All the big creatures won't have died. And if he does have remove one of your big guys, then it's probably equally as good to have another big guy than get the old one back. Okay, so we open a booster with the Cruel Rage Beast and insert the Swine. Those are immediate eye openers for me. There's also a Raptor, which we can't play. So basically choice for us is between the removal spell Devour Flesh and the Battlestrade Spy. There is of course Aerial Maneuver and Shielded Passage, which are okay combat tricks. There's also Active Treason, Burning 3 Emissary for the red side of the deck, which we're probably not going to have a whole lot of. And there is Undercity Informer, which is not as good as Battlestrade Spy. So the Spy flies, that's the same stats, and the 1 mana is really worth flying, especially since we already have 2-3 walls on the ground in the Higher Torturers. So the choice between the Devour Flesh and the Battlestrade Spy, and I'm going to edge out into the Devour Flesh because I think the removal is a bit more powerful than the Battlestrade Spy is. So here we are getting a lot of good cards for us. There is the Gift of Orzhova, which is really good. There are 2 Extort creatures, the Nick of Tides and Basilica cards, which I really like, and there's the Wojciech Halberdiers, which you probably can't play because of the splashing red. Cards like Bomber Corpse and Scorchspark are also lose out on being splashed. I'm going to just take the Gift of Orzhova because it's a really powerful card. You can slap it on basically any of these dorks and it'll become a prime creature. So yeah, taking this. And here we get Ors of Guildgate to fix our mana, or Prophetic Prism to fix our mana, and the Salt Griffin if we really want an extra creature. I prefer to just focus on the fixing for a little moment. The Ors of Guildgate looks like it's going to fix our main colors, while the Prophetic Prism can also fix our red. So I'm inclined to take the Prism here. Should this change, it doesn't make a difference. If we have the Prism, we can still fix the other color that's phasing out of the new one. So just taking this. Here's another Prophetic Prism. There's also Boris Charm, which is a decent trick, and there are some defensive cards like the Corpse Blockade and the late game card Tower Fist, Thundering Tower Fist, Towering Thunder Fist. I like Boris Charm, but it's a bit narrow. You need to be attacking. The Indestructible is really good. The Double Strike and the 4 damage are really aggressive traits. We don't have a really aggressive deck yet. We have a couple of walls and 3 drops. We're supposed to be getting the Boros cards, but I'm not seeing them coming around all that much. So I think I prefer the Prophetic Prism and make sure our mana base is in order. Especially since we do seem to be getting some powerful cards on the red end. And if we open up something powerful in a return to Ravnica booster, we can still splash it up off of these prisms, no matter which color it is. And I always like that option. Here's Corpse Denizen, which is a fine aggressive creature, just taking it. And here we get basically a whole lot of nothing. We have Gutter Skulk if you want a creature for a 2-drop. We also have Madcap skills. And I really like Madcap skills with cards like Titrinker, and if we have blocking restriction options like Has the Snare Squad available to us. So I'm going to take this, even though it would be a splash card. It's probably going to be one of the late game options. Here we get Pit Fight as a removal on the splash. We have Fortress Cyclops and Nascot Commandos as a 5-drop. And the Pit Fight, I like that we have a lot of walls we can fight with, like the Higher Torturers. They can deal 2 damage to a flying creature and take 2 damage from the Windbreak, something like that. It helps that we have Dead Touch for the late game. but it will be off for splash color, and it will be pretty weak with creatures we otherwise have. Dip Drinker, Courtship Denizen, has the Snare Squads. They can't really fight. I prefer to take one of the better creatures, one of the late game creatures, and then my incentive goes out to the Nazgûl Commandos. The Fortress Cyclops is fine as well, but it's red, and which would be the splash. And the Nazgûl Commandos, if you can manage to get this battalion off, a 4/6 attacker is really good. The Fortress Cyclops would have been a bit better with the auras we have, so I think it's close call. I have better experience with the Nazgûl Commandos. Wouldn't blame anyone taking the Cyclops there. This is basically a bunch of unplayables. I'm going to take the creature, because we might need creatures in this deck. This is again, these are basically the tricks that we were talking about going around. We have some auras, we have some removals, we don't really have any combo tricks yet, so I'm inclined to take the aerial maneuver. We could take the Active Treason, but this isn't all that aggressive as well, so it's going to leave that out. Here we can choose between Scorchwalker and the Zerichi Tiger. I don't mind taking the Scorchwalker right now. We already have 3 red fixers. It's still decent if you can put it out as a 5/1 and they use the Madcap skills to give the force on it. And I think it's a lot better than the Zerichi Tiger. It does pull us against into a 3-color even deck, which I don't like. But I also don't like Zerichi Tiger. So here it goes. Here I take the Night Watch because we need some more creatures. And the rest is just junk. I've never played Mark for Death. I've always been wanting to, but there's always better cards available for my pool. As it is now, we have 21 playables. We have our color fixing set up good and 2 Prophetic Prisms and a Reckless Guild Gate. We have some decent early game, and we have some decent late game in the auras, or maybe the 6 drops or the gold list. The only guild we're getting out of this color combination from Ravnica is Rakdos, so that'll be focusing on our early game, which is fine. I also wouldn't mind splashing out into another guild if we open up something insanely powerful. And we open Chaos Imps, which is insanely powerful, and in our colors. There's also Annihilating Fire, which, since red is our late game color, the Annihilating Fire will probably be a late game removal, in which case 3 damage might not be enough. So I prefer the Chaos Imps over that. There's also Tristani's Judgment for a late game removal spell, but I still prefer the Chaos Imps over that, since we only have 11 creatures. And Chaos Imps really is a good attacker. It can finish really fast. There's Grim Roustabout if you want an early game creature, but I think creatures of the quality of Grim Roustabout are going to be available to us. So just going to take the Chaos Imps. Not going to discuss it any further. This booster holds for us Assassin Strike as a 6-mana removal spell, which would probably replace the Mark Burst at this point. There's also Rectus Key Rune, which I like a lot more. It's once again another fixer. It's also a very decent creature. It's hard to get rid of. It's a lot better than all of the other Key Runes of Gate Crash. It's also the best key rune in Return to Ravnica, so it's the best key rune in my opinion. There's also Sunspire Griffin, which is a decent flyer attacking creature. So I'm a bit torn between these two. I like the key rune a lot, also because of fixing, but we don't have a lot of active creatures right now. So I think that the Griffin might be the right pick. It's a white creature for the Denizen. It's just a creature in general, so we can put a gift or a madcap skills on it. And it's a flying attacker, so what not to like. I also think that through the True Prisms and the Reckless Guild Gate we already got our mana requirements covered, even if the Chaos Imp is requiring us to have double red. Here we have Annihilating Fire again. We also have Augur Spree as removal, and Hellwolf Flailer and Death Reveler, and I would have just taken this booster as it is and our deck would have been finished. So with Justice, Trictus would have made the deck, at least over Aerial Maneuver. Right now the choice is between one of the removal spells. I think that removal is better than these creatures are, especially because the best creature is the Hellwolf Flailer, and this would be not readily available on turn 3. The Augur Spree would be the best removal because Annihilating Fire takes 2 red mana to cast, so we're just going to take the Augur Spree and be happy with it. Then here we get Daggerrealm Imp, which is a decent 2-drop, especially with madcap skills and Gifts of Orzhova. Also with Scorchwalker or Rumblebelt Maka. There's also Explosive Impact if you want more spells to cost 6 mana, but I think we already hit our quota on that, especially since this is 6 or more basically. So yeah, I'm just going to pull the imp out of this and solidify our early game. There's a guild gate that's not in our colors, and there's a lot of cards that are not in our colors. So basically we here have the Bellows Wizard if we are desperately looking for creatures, which we are not. And we have Dark Revenant, which is a creature that's flying, and that's okay, I guess. I'll put it in. And here we are getting a couple of interesting cards in Spawn of Ixmadi or Ethereal Armor. I think Ethereal Armor is interesting because it gives a bonus to one of these creatures which would otherwise be too weak. Titrinker with +1/+1 for strike is of course powerhouse. Putting in a Scorchwalker or a Dark Revenant will make it pretty relevant. There's also 2 other auras here to make it a +2/+2. There's also Spawn of Ixmadi, which would be just another creature. We already have 15 creatures as it is, although we need to cut some of these cards. But I'm inclined to just take the Ethereal Armor and not play the Aerial Maneuver. Here we have Concordia Pegasus. That's basically the only playable that we would want in this deck. That's a creature. I can cut this guy as well. Here we have Azorius Arrestor, which is a better creature. Also Avenging Arrow if we need removal. But I think we got removal covered, especially since deck is supposed to be the attacking deck with the auras and take a drop game. I don't want to waste time sitting on my Avenging Arrow, so I'm going to take the 2-drop. And here's a booster that has not much for us. I'm going to take out this Slitherhead because we might play it, board it in perhaps, but it wouldn't be all that good. So I'm just going to hate the Paralyzing Grasp. It can counter one of these auras, I don't want that. Quirrell Ranks is coming around. Well, guess no one is Celestia. There's always a Celestia player who wants it and probably can't play it, so. There's another Ethereal Armor, which looks okay. I'm just going to take it. See if it makes the deck. This is all rubbish. We could take the Sundering Growth as a sideboard card. And just more rubbish. I think this is the best card, so I'm taking that out. And looking at this deck, we need to cut 5 cards as it is. I think this is a bit too heavy for this deck, so I'm going to take it out. We might board it in against the slower decks, just so we have another way to kill. To kill him, deal the last damage, but I think starting in May would be wrong. It's just expensive for that. You need 6 or 7 mana, and I'm really hoping that we don't reach that point, and we already have stuff to do at those manas. At those mana levels. There's also Higher Torture, which will keep us busy. So I guess we don't need the depth. The main issue of this deck, I suppose we need to address, is that there are 4 auras in it right now, and the question is, do we want 4 auras in it? Well, there's no doubt that the Magic Skills to get 4 are going to be worth their while. But are the Ethereal Armors going to be? It says here it has 16 creatures, so there's a Night Watch for 17 creatures. So maybe I'm just going to use this interface a bit and just put these down here. It's the Mark Burst, which isn't the creature. I'm just going to cut the Mark Burst. I think it's too expensive for what it does. We don't have all that many big creatures, and 6 mana really is a lot. And these are all the creatures we have. These are all the creatures we have. Here's removal still. And I am not really worried about this curve. I think this curve is fine. There's some 2-drops, some 3-drops. I am afraid that Higher Torture can't attack, so it won't be good enough. I certainly wouldn't like having 2 at one point, so I'm just going to cut 1 already. I like these cards. I think our red mana is solid as well with the 2 prisms, and Derek's Guild Gate got it covered. I think Scorchwalker might be a bit too greedy on that part. We wouldn't be able to blood rush it easily, so I'm going to take that out. I don't mind playing the other red cards. It's starting to look more like a decent splash now. There's also the Chaos Imps, which requires us to have 2 red. But I don't mind keeping this in because it's a very late game card and it will finish the game for us, so that's okay. With 25 cards on 1 gate, we just need to cut 1 more card. And I really don't want to cut another creature. I think these 3 removals and the 2 prisms are a must for getting this deck to work. So that leaves us with one of these 4 cards, and it would be Ethereal Armor. So now we have 3 more tricks for our creatures to help. I like Ethereal Armor as well on the Daggerdrome Imp or Titrinker because there's just a clock, it's hard to raise. They're pretty good in the Concordia Pegasus because it has just one more toughness point than would be expected at that point in the curve. So yeah, basically I think this looks good. I think this deck has what it needs to win. It's a decent deck, yeah. I think this would be able to go at least 2-1. And perhaps even 3-0 if I had to expect, if I had to look at this. Need to figure out the mana base as well. So I already calculated in a bit of it. I think I need the 2 mountains for this to work. Giving us 5 red sources, that's enough for the chaos imp in the late game. It's enough to get at least 1 source for all of these cards. So I'm just going to add 2 mountains. That leaves us with 14 more lands, and we can divide them evenly, but there's also the Reckless Guild Gate, and black already is a little bit less heavy than white because you have Sunspire Griffin. So I'm inclined to just put in 1 more plain and 1 more swamp. So 7 plains, 5 swamps, leaving us with 9 white sources, 8 black sources, and 5 red sources. I think that's a pretty fine. And I see this is only 12 lands, so we get 6 swamps and 8 plains. I miscalculated on that. So the white and black land sources go up by 1. This is basically the deck. I'll just put this back here. And this is it. I like this. Yeah, I really do. Okay, so here we go in the first match with the new deck. We want a die roll. Yes, we want to play first with this deck. And this is a pretty awkward hand. We have all of our mana sources. We have something to do in turn 2. We have madcap skills. And the end game chaos imp. This is hard to say whether it's a keep or not, because we have something to do, and if we draw a creature on turn 2 or 3, we can use the madcap skills to make it lethal, forcing him to deal with it, and then getting him with the chaos imps. If we don't draw that creature, we'll be in for a World of Hurt, because he'll basically have free reign until we get 6 mana. We're on the play, so we have a bit of tempo advantage in that regard. So I'm just going to keep this, try it. We have all of our mana, nothing can go wrong with this if we draw a creature. Well, of course, there's always something to go wrong. But I think this hand will hold up. We have enough creatures. If we draw our late game, that's okay. We already have 4 mana sources. We get an extra draw from the Prism. So I think this hand would be able to withstand the beating. So I'm basically hoping to play against a semi-aggressive deck, just a big mid-range deck, so that's, yeah, something like that. It probably won't have the removal to deal with the madcap skilled creature easily, and then the chaos imps, and it won't be fast as to run us out of the game before you get even consider playing those cards. So we'll just have to wait until he chooses whether he wants to mulligan or not. If I have to compare this deck to the last deck, I think they're about equally powerful. Well, maybe this one is a bit more powerful than the other one, because this one has a straightforward plan instead of waiting the game out. I didn't think the last deck was a bad deck per se, but as you saw, being a reactive deck, just waiting it out does have its disadvantages. I do like being a bit more proactive, which the deck certainly can be. So yeah, it's in this format both are viable. This is one of the reasons why Dimir is suddenly playable once again. Instead of having only the crap Dimir cards to mill someone out from Gatecrash, you also get the very fine cards to mill someone out, like Doorkeeper and Psychic Spiral, Codex Shredder, and perhaps Chronic Flooding if you're going for the self-mill deck. So that's okay. So the card quality goes up a little bit. There's also a Pilfered Plants in Dragon's Maze, along with perhaps Miracle Voss, or to just help the mill play along. The format's a bit slower in that regard as well, so you can allow yourself a bit more time. And yes, I think all in all, being defensive isn't as much as as a bad idea as it was the triple gate crash. Being defensive in Return to Ravnica was a good idea as well. I mean, you could draft the X-Bane Guardian deck. I never was a fan of it, but you could do it. Just stock up on the walls and then hit something big and then be done with it. And it's basically what we tried in the last match, only in different colors and with different walls. And we had the problem that that deck usually has, that you just don't draw anything to finish the game with. You just are playing the waiting game and your opponent will have good cards as well, so it can go either way. Our opponent's taking a long time to get here. So yeah, feel free to scroll ahead to the point where this game actually starts doing anything. I'm just going to say this right now, but you're not going to hear this. If he doesn't show up, then I'll just cut this part out. If he does show up, you still get to hear this part. Unless you skip past it, then you missed it. Consider it an Easter egg. From me to you. So I actually think that the art on the guild gates of Dragon's Maze is so much better than the art on the guild gates of the original set. I mean, I liked some of those as well, but most of them were just doorways or doors of. I mean, if you take a look at the Rector's guild gate, it was just the little part in the middle, you know, this part, and it just looked like shit. And right now it has a sense of grandeur, and then there's a lot more to see, there's a lot more going on. I think this artwork really improved by zooming out. So yeah, that was a good choice of them to give them the better artwork. And then the Rector's Guild Gate even is one of the lesser ones. I mean, look at this art. It's an epic looking archway, I'll give it that, but it's still an archway leading up to a door. But if you look at the Celestian one and the Simic one, it's just there's a whole part of the city included in it. It's just great for flavor. It really is. And he already lost 5 minutes of his time. Consider that if our previous opponent had that, he only had 1.5 minutes left. Well, wasting all this time certainly would have won us that match. So let's see if there's something else going on. It's just a chat on the game details. It's one of the things in the beta. If you're not familiar with the beta client, you have some drop down menus who's playing who, and I can see that this one's playing this one, so I close this one down again. He already won a game in 5 minutes. Yeah. And they're still in their first game, and he's playing against me, and they're also still in their first game. They are in sideboarding. He lost game 1 in 5 minutes, now they're sideboarding, and they'll get back to you still have a small picture of what is going on here, so you can return to the game, but you can also see what's going on. As soon as he responds, you can see that this block will get white, and you have new products. Yeah, probably from my previous draft. It'll be a Miracle of Us, you see? It's the avatar. So with 6.5 minutes gone on his clock, we're still waiting. So I do hope that he does turn up, or else we'll be getting this bust draft of me losing the first round, then having a bye, and then losing the second round and then the second draft. And man, I'll have nothing to show for it. I can just take you on a tour of the beta if you want. This is the rest of the beta client. I don't know if I showed this to you in one of the first videos. You have all kinds of filters here, and then there's the home with the future tournaments. Well, that's all nice, and what's going on, and all of your friends and stuff. And then there's your collection, and you have boatloads of filters again, and it shows all of your cards. And hey, here he is. So, without further ado, let's get this match started. I see no reason to not start with the gate. he has a swamp as well. We draw another land. Well, we would be needing one anyways, but I'd rather see a creature. There's another prison. It's not bad, but I'd rather still have a creature. And Sunspire Griffin. No, it's a land. So let's play this. Gift of Warsava. Well, that's exactly what we don't need. Now we really want to have creatures. At least we have our land all set up, and he's playing the same colors as us. He got the key rune. Another land, man. This is one of the ways where this draw could bust us up. On the other hand, if we do start to draw creatures, we are having a really good outlook. We also get our Balustrade Spy. And we lose the land and Maze of Elimination. Well, that's not too bad. We want to try out of that as well. There, our last aura. So now we're basically getting next turn Chaos Imps. And after that we'll see what happens. He doesn't really have a real clock on us right now. He just has the Key Rune and the Balustrade Spy. And there's Tenement Crusher. Okay, so the clock is starting. We'll take 7. We'll go down to 13. We'll take 7 next turn as well. See if we can have another land. This is not the draw I was hoping for. The question is, should we unleash this or not? Yes, I'm going to unleash this because I fully intend to drop the Gifts of Warsava on it next turn if it survives. If this dies, we'll probably lose this game anyway with a draw like this. Yes, we've drawn all of our non-action spells. All our other spells in the deck are creatures or removals. So let's see if we can reactivate the Key Rune. It's just going in for everything. Dealing us 10 damage. So we go down to 3. Plus a risk to unleash it. But yeah, if we lose the Chaos Imp, we lose anyway. And that's game. That's just 13 damage right there. Yeah, that was it. Well, what a bummer for first game. There really wasn't the worst draw for us to have with this hand. Seeing as he has a probably aggressive deck as well, playing red, white and black, I'm going to put a higher Torture in. I'm going to take the Ethereal Armor out. He might have a lot of removal, or he might have removal at all, and I think the auras aren't good for removal. Rather have an extra Dork. So yes, we want to play first again. This hand is not as awful as it looks. We have Prophetic Prism to fix our mana. We have 2 drop. We have 2 drop. We have 3 drop. We have something to do with our mana after, so I'm going to keep this. Actually, with the Prism and the 3 lands, the only spell we can't cast color-wise would be the Chaos Imps. So yeah, we're pretty okay with this. There's a mountain. So now we can play every spell. Oh, there was also the Ogre Spree, but we drew the mountain to fix that. He's going slow once more. He has a swamp. So we're hitting the lands off anyway. Not going to need the prison probably. I started up with the Snare Squad over the Torturer because it can attack next turn. We can play the Torturer anyway. Here's the Dead Reveler. Now we can decide to just kill the Dead Reveler instead of... Oh, we have 2 spells for it now. Just going to attack with this one, but you need to tap that. No. I'm not going to destroy the Death Reveler because I think the Snare Squad or the Nest Squad commanders can deal with it. So I'm just going to put the Torturer out. Have it out there. Here's Rick's Mighty Guildmate, something we would want to get rid of. Makes blocking next to impossible. He didn't play a 4th land, so he can only use it once, which means I'm not really afraid of it. I am going to attack, I'm going to target the Guildmate, but I'm not going to use this. It's probably not going to block. I'm just going to play the Nestrat Commandos. This will ensure that we can keep up counter-attacking. Rick's Mighty Guildmage isn't effective with the lands he has. Should he have another land, we can always just kill it next turn with the Helix or the Augur Spree and still have our attackers up. It's not even attacking. Just play Swamp. Just attack with these two guys. And once more not tapping the Guild Mage. There's no point. Well, he could decide to start blocking the Assassin Squad now, but that means that he has given up the hope that he can either win this game, or he's thinking that I don't have a trick. And in both cases I'm willing to get that extra information for the loss of 1 damage. Now he's going to attack with both. So I'm going to let him lose his mana. I'm just going to block this. It's going to activate from -1/-1. I'm going to kill it with the Augur Spree. Why the Augur Spree, not the Warrior's Helix? I can Helix his head, and that shaves off a turn, probably. So yeah, I want to keep that for direct damage. We're getting to his discard step, and he discards them with Crusher. Okay, just going to send these two guys in. Not going to tap that. He'll go to 10, which means that next turn this will be lethal with the Torture and the Warrior's Helix. There's still nothing preventing me from putting the Drinker in, should he have something to remove one of these two guys, or 2 blockers or something like that. Then we still are lethal next turn. We can activate the higher Torture still, but I think this is the point where he gives up the game if he doesn't have anything. I'll take another 3. I think this is extra information. It reveals Boar's Charm. It's over here. And he has to go to cleanup, so he has to discard another card. He discards the Boar's Charm, so no extra information there. We draw a Dagger Drone. That's okay. I'm just going to attack with this. This one gets the battalion going. And he has a loss. He's going to kill the Tiff Drinker, and he's going to take the power from the Snare Squad. He should have played this at the beginning of combat step, obviously, to take 1 less damage from the Nesquad Commandos. I'm still not going to do that. So now he just takes 2 from these guys. 3 from these guys, sorry. And I'm not going to play Dagger Drone. I'm now going to sit on my Torture and my Helix and use those to win the game for us. I could have played the for the same reason that I played the Drinker. But it's especially with the untapped Nesquad Commandos, there's no point in. We're going to win this game anyway. Now he has a Helix for the Nesquad Commando. That's okay. We can't blow out the game right now as it is. He'll take his life. He'll still be in lethal range. Here's the Roll-Dot Maka. Should I throw the Maka onto this to finish him off this turn? There's 5 cards. Well, you might have another Helix or something, so I'll just do it like this, so that next time when he does, when he has the Helix ready, that we, I'll show him the Imp as well. There, fuck it. You could still lose this if he does have another Helix or something like that, so I'm just keeping up everything to put pressure on him, and still Helix him out of the game should it become necessary. I'll just take that to the face. Don't think there's any trick he can have to do 8 damage in a single go. And he concedes. Okay, so we're 1-1. So far we didn't see much of the deck that was very different from ours. Let's see, now we know that this removal at least includes a War Leader's Helix. He also has the Big Smelly Guild Mage, but that doesn't change a whole lot for our deck. He is greedy with his attacks, he just attacks, but that's what the Reckless creatures do. I don't think he had any other points, so I'm not going to board in the aerial maneuver to see if I can trick one of his creatures or something like that. I could try that because he didn't seem to be very aggressive. So it could probably drain for 2 or 3 mana, which would be 4 or 6 damage. But I think that this way is fine. These cards at least all affect the board, so. Okay, so now it's his turn to start. He keeps, I keep. This is a fine hand. We have Follow for mana once again. There's something to do in turn 2. If we draw an early game creature, we can slap the Madcap skills on, and if not, we'll just hang it onto the commandos and make that unblockable. Yes, Celestia Guildgate. I'm wondering what that's for. Maybe he has gatekeepers, maybe he has actual green cards, but I didn't see a lot of fixing for that. The next turn you have the Snare Squad. That will be a fine blocker for his Boros Mastiff. We can also put the Madcap skills on that. It will still be Warriors Helixable, which will give him a 2-for-1, so don't really like that. I'd rather have him back to block. Another Prism. Keep fine to cycle next turn. Here's the Snare Squad. Here they come. We're just going to take care of the Dead Reveler. Take 2 to 16. And Zerichi Tiger. Well, that's not really putting a lot of pressure on us. Here's Tit Drinker. I actually like Tit Drinker right now. I like a lot the Madcap skills as well. So I was planning on just playing the gate and pass a turn using the Ogre Spree to kill his Dead Reveler, but I think it might be worth it to just take a bit of extra damage and see if I can get the Tit Drinker with the Madcap skills going. Even if it swings for just once, that'll be okay. We do have to be careful because he might have his profit and loss. In which scenario he would kill the Tit Drinker and the Madcap skills, and even the House of Snare Squad if you block wrong this turn. He forgets to attack with his Boros Mastiff, probably because he does not trade the Tit Drinker. Which means I'm just going to block the Zerichi Tiger and not walk into his profit loss. Here's the Rick's Mighty Guild Mage. For only 2 mana, there's no removal spell that we already saw that we want to get rid of. So I'm just going to play the Mountain. To put the Madcap skills on the Tit Drinker. Extort him for 1. And then attack him back with the Snare Squad and the Tit Drinker. Tapping out his Mastiff. He blocks like this. He takes 5, we gain 5, which means that the backswing won't be as bad. He still seems to be struggling a bit with his mana, being stuck on 4. So any Tenement Crusher or something will be at least 2 turns gone, and his Guild Mage will still only be able to activate once. We're probably going to kill the Guild Mage anyway in a subsequent turn. Yeah, here's 9 damage coming in at us. He'll gain 2 life from the Boros Mastiff. And now he basically has to present us with an answer for the Tit Drinker, or that will go on and only gain. He might have Profit and Loss, he might have Warriors Helix, those are both fine. To kill the Tit Drinker right now, it's done its job, it gained us a lot of life, it gained us a bit of tempo advantage. Actually, there was no tempo advantage involved here. See, and he's using the Warriors Helix right now, instead of walking to a trick on our turn. So now we have the option, we can play the Nazgûl Commandos and set up blocks, so we can use the Ogre Spree, kill one of these guys. He doesn't have a whole lot of mana, so I think that the Nazgûl Commandos might actually be the best choice. That won't be a good attack for him then, unless he has another removal spell. He has another Mountain, that does nothing for his Guild Mage. The question is, does he want to attack right now or not? Can deal us probably 5 damage. he has Rakdos Key Rune, giving him his second black mana, giving him his 6th mana. So that's a pretty good card for him. And he's attacking with a Dead Raveler. There is we can block it with the Nav Squad Commandos, and if he does have a trick, we'll lose the Commandos, which is a bit of a risk. Seeing as his board is, there is nothing that can kill the Commandos right now, so he needs to have Annihilating Fire or maybe Ogre Spree. Going down to 7 against his board is also tricky. We only have 2 blockers, and his next attack will probably be very little, so I don't think we can risk this, and I'm just going to block it. Maybe he was hoping I'd double block it and then he could kill the Snare Squad. He's making it 2-4. Nothing happens. And he has Death's Approach to kill it. Okay, well, that's a shame. Nothing we can do about that. His Concordia Pegasus doesn't do a whole lot for us either, so I'm just going to play the Prism and see if we can draw something better. Devour Flesh. That's not bad at all. We can now play the Concordia Pegasus. Have 2 blockers for him. Blocking will be hard because of his Guild Mage. I'll just use Devour Flesh in response. Get him to sacrifice at least one of his creatures. Maybe we should have not played the Concordia Pegasus, just Ogre Spree to Guild Mage would have made blocking for us a bit better. Just put it like this. Now you can kill the Pegasus or you can kill the Snare Squad. It's his choice. Yeah, it would have been better to just Ogre Spree the Rex Mighty Guild Mage, get rid of it, and then have an easy block with Snare Squad instead of this gamble block we have right now. Dark Revenant. They'll be able to hold off a bit of him. Let's first take care of this. Not in this way. Do it like this. We'll just we'll put it down. We have no choice. So not happy drawing the Dark Revenant every turn. But at least they can gang up and kill the Tiger. Question is if we should. Can also gang up and kill the Key Rune. Then next turn we'll draw Dark Revenant again. We'll have to jump with both and we'll draw Dark Revenant again. So maybe we shouldn't block with Dark Revenant at all. Let's see, we can freely block to reach a Tiger without problem. If we let Dark Revenant die right now, we're going to draw him again and we'll die to that. So we're just going to block like this. We'll go to 1. See if we can draw something better. And he has his Prophet again. So we'd be dead anyway. And that's another match that we lost. So I'm sorry I didn't produce any good games for you to watch at. I hope you still got something out of these 2 drafts. I'm a bit disappointed in how they went. I think they could have gone better. I think the decks weren't bad, and especially the second one didn't deserve the pummeling it got, especially the first game. So yeah, these were 2 drafts, and I'll be rating a bit next week, so there will be a video in 2 weeks, I guess. So I'll see you then.